Missions of Hope International started back in the year 2000. At that point, we were not even called Missions of Hope, but we were called Mathare Family Hope Center. And this was in response to a call that we felt God laying on our hearts, myself and my husband Wallace, to reach out to the children and the families of Mathare Valley slums. We had been to Mathare several times. We had volunteered in different programs. We had tried to do different outreach programs, and God just so specifically led us to start this ministry so that we could be able to work with the children and also their parents, but not just the children in isolation. And so in the year 2000, September 4th, we started our first school with 50 boys and girls aged 4 to 6. And it wasn't easy to select 50 kids out of a whole slum community of more than 800,000 people. And 25% of those people living in the slums being school-age children. And so we narrowed down to one village, Mathare Village 1, and also known as Mlango Kubwa. And we talked to some community leaders, youth leaders, women leaders, and we requested them to make a list for us of all the children, at least top 50 children that they thought were the most needed children. Of course, we talked with them individually, and so each person came up with a list, and then we sat down later on with this list and compared the list, and out of those lists, we were able to select the first 50 children. It wasn't easy, and I always say talk about this one girl whose name was on top of the list. Every single list of the 5 lists that we got from the community leaders, Saumu was on top of this list. And so it was touching to see that everybody thought that she was the neediest child in that community. Of course, later on, we got to know why and what was happening in that family. And after selecting these children, then we were able to do all the groundwork from the month of June, July, and August. And in September, on September 4th, we opened the first school. By this time, we were able to get some financial support from Community Baptist Church of Inglewood, New Jersey, the leadership of Pastor Lester Taylor. They started giving us funding for supporting 50 children every month. And as we started with these 50 kids, and we were reaching out to their families as well, many people in the community learned of what we were doing, and they wanted to be able to have their children also join our school. And so within no time, we got many inquiries, many parents coming, and it happened that some of the cases were so desperate, we could not turn them away. And so we admitted them right away into our school. Then others, we would tell them to go back and wait until such a time when we can get a vacancy, and then we would put the names of those children on a waiting list. And we started building a waiting list, and so within no time, the number of children attending our school started increasing from 50 to 85 to 100 to 120, and the number kept growing until we had no more space in the facilities that we were renting at that point. And we had to move to another facility. Meanwhile, as the number of kids in the school was growing, the number of kids on the waiting list was also growing. And it happened that even children from other villages beyond Village 1, like in Village 2, in Kosovo Village, in Bodeni, they were also coming and they were inquiring. And it broke my heart, and most of our staff were really broken to see that we were not able to help all these people that were coming. And so we had to move to another facility. And when we moved, that is actually when the number shot up to more than 140 kids. And things became harder because even though Community Baptist Church had continued supporting us, it wasn't possible to keep supporting over 140 kids with the same amount of money. And my husband had to get a credit card, and we had to keep spending his salary in advance. And that's how we kept supporting the ministry. And later on, when we moved to a new building, we were so blessed to have more space. And then at that point, we learned about a strategy called CHE, Community Health Evangelism, that would help us to do more ministry and be more effective at the community level, reaching out to the families and then their neighbors. And using CHE, we were able to start expanding and at least being able to engage with other community members other than just the parents that were attending our school. And through the CHE program, there are many ideas that came up. Our community members started thinking of how they could do a HIV and AIDS control program, because there were a lot of infections going on at the time. And so the challenge was, how do we stop these infections? How do we stop the cycle of poverty? And because most of these people, it's like they would get involved in antisocial behaviors and putting themselves at a higher risk of getting infected because they didn't have a source of income. And so some community members started thinking of how can we grow a program to empower people to be able to do businesses. And as we empower them to do businesses, how can we train them? How can we teach them some skills that they can use to start businesses? And this kind of just started expanding, so that the ministry became not only about educating the kids, and of course having a local church and evangelizing to the parents and sending them to the local church, but also we had to start expanding by doing community health evangelism and also economic empowerment programs. And that is actually what formed the basis or the foundation of the ministries that we are doing today. And it wasn't until the year 2004 that we actually got registered as Missions of Hope International as a way of building the capacity for the ministry so that we can be able to go beyond just one small local community and be able to expand to other communities. And that was the foundation of Missions of Hope.